Today's story is about Daniel, another Old Testament story. And first, we remember that scale doesn't matter. So actually, this king, Darius, lives in this palace. Well, clearly he wouldn't be knocking in and out of that door all day, or maybe that's why he has such bad hair. But anyway, scale doesn't matter. So keep that in mind and use your imagination. Also use your imagination on their faces. So you have to figure out what you think Daniel, a very brave man, looked like, and Darius, a king who was teachable, what he looked like. And the last thing to remember for a Waldorf-style telling is that we bring this story to us with a song. Bible, Bible, tell your story, speak to us about God's glory. There's so much we need to know. Tell us how God loves us so. This story takes place a long time ago, after Jerusalem has fallen. And it's King Nebuchadnezzar who is so terribly bright that he brought all the smartest scholars in the kingdom to his palace to learn everything they could so that they could then go out and help others. It was awfully smart of him. Now, he is about 2 generations back, and the king we're going to talk about today is King Darius. King Darius has noticed among his wise men that a Jewish man, Daniel, seems to be the wisest of all of his advisors. When he needs advice, he goes to all of his advisors, but it's Daniel who generally gives him the truth that he needs to know. And the trouble is, those advisors, they're just kind of a smarty pants bunch. They're all into fancy clothes and fancy hair, and they try to be of help to the king. But in truth, they're sort of magicians, where our Daniel is a holy man, and there is a difference. Well, things are going along okay, but more and more Daniel comes out on top and these other advisors don't. So they start a plot, and they appeal to King Darius's vanity, his feeling of wanting to be very much the king, I suppose. And they talk him into signing into law a rule that says everyone must pray to Darius every day for 30 days. No other gods. Darius will be their god for 30 days. Well, they put that into effect, and that's going to work for everybody except Daniel. Daniel knows that his God, our God, is the true God, and so every day he goes home to his humble little house here, where perhaps he shares some space with a humble hound dog. He goes inside his house and he faces east toward Jerusalem, and 3 times a day he's down on his knees and he prays. Well, these other advisors, they're a sneaky bunch, and they've kind of figured out what might happen, so they go over and they watch outside Daniel's house, and sure enough, when it's prayer time for Daniel, whoops, I've lost a king. When it's prayer time for Daniel, they see that he's upstairs by his window praying. The king has taken a nap, but back he comes. Nap time is over, and the king is back in his palace. And the advisors can't wait to run and tell him their sneaky news that Daniel has been praying to his own God and not just to the king. Well, the king tries to get out of it because Daniel's kind of a friend. They've gotten along well, and they've done a lot together. But that group, all these wise men, there are 120 of them, they all say, no, 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 you signed the law. The law is the law. You can't go against the law. The The king doesn't like this law right now. He doesn't like it one bit, but he knows that he has to obey it. So he goes, and he tells Daniel the bad news. The bad news is the punishment for breaking the law had already been set. The punishment is to be put to death in the lion's den. Whoa, this is serious business. Daniel's pretty serious. He's seriously thinking, this is not working out really well. The hound dog is trembling. Daniel allows the guards to take him to the lion's den. And even though the king has to obey his own laws, he calls out to Daniel that he hopes his God will protect him. And here goes Daniel. Daniel goes. He's escorted down, down, down into a pit. It's a den where this lion lives, and let's imagine lots of lions. And by the way, this is a very hungry lion. This is not a vegetarian lion. This is a good meat-eating kind of lion. And poor Daniel, down he is there in the pit, and the guard comes forward and rolls a big rock over the top of the pit where Daniel is alone with lions, and they're hungry. Night falls, and it gets even darker in the pit. All night, King Darius is worried about his friend Daniel being eaten by the lions, not only the appetizer, but the main course and the dessert. All Daniel. Oh, Daniel. In the morning, the king is waiting, and the rock is rolled away. And the king calls down, "Oh, Daniel, servant of the loving God, has your God been able to deliver you from the lions?" And our Daniel, who is absolutely alive and untouched, says, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths so they wouldn't hurt me, because I was blameless before him and blameless before you. O King Darius, I have done no wrong." Daniel escapes from the lion's den and returns to the side of his friend, King Darius, who has certainly tested his faith. And between them, they will continue to guide the kingdom for many years. And that's the end of our story today. Bible, Bible, tell your stories, speak to us about God's glory. There's so much we need to know. Tell us how God loves us so. Our takeaway from the famous story of Daniel and the lion's den is that, like Daniel, you can face anything if you have faith. The big things like the lion that's about to eat you, or the small things like the friends who are mean, or the problems of everyday life, they are all faceable, because from faith comes strength and courage, and all of that comes from God.